Foundational Black Americans, ADOS Americans. We have a problem. And the problem is immigration. Immigrants that come over and climb up the backs of foundational Black Americans and American descendants of slaves. Now, I'm going to use those two terms. They're new, but I'm going to use those terms because I happen to like the fact that they are specifically identifying Blacks in the United States of America that were originally here. And let me say this before I forget, because this is not in my outline necessarily. Someone made the comment that I agree with. When you look at FBA or ADOS, we're not immigrants. We were not immigrants to the United States of America. So I think that was a valid point. And whoever said that, very, very thoughtful. So you're going to wonder why somebody that's in this picture is talking about this. Phenotypically, I may appear as one thing, but trust me, I am an African American or a Black American, whatever it is. So we go through these iterations, right? So, it's colored, Negro, African American, Afro American, Black, and now in the United States, we're using these new terms. I think these new terms are just another iteration. But as we keep going through some of these name changes, they do get to the point. So why I'm saying that we have a problem. Affirmative action, and this is the point here. We have a problem with affirmative action. And affirmative action was meant as a corrective action for past discriminations, past acts that were in the United States of people of FBA and ADOS background, not people who are from Nigeria, not people who are from Jamaica, not people who are from Mexico, not people who are from Brazil, not people who are from Canada, FBA and ADOS. But yet, what we find is that people that come over here that are people of color, another amorphous term in order to water down the rights that FBA and ADOS created, the rights that affirmative action was meant to address, is always watered down. And these people come over and they'll make arguments about, I'm a minority. Listen, your affirmative action came when you were allowed to come into America. You got away from where you were trying to get away from, and you came to America. Affirmative action wasn't meant for you to come and put down on an application that you're a minority and you get some type of a preferential treatment, because you didn't experience in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s to the 2000s what FBA and ADOS people experienced, nor did your people put in the work to get these laws on the books and passed. And on top of that, when you come over, you will sit in your house away from ADOS and FBAs and play like you're not one of us, because you've learned from everybody else that if you go against FBA ADOS, that you will be accepted, by the larger white American population. And you play that up. If FBA isn't in the break room, you'll be dogging FBA to your white coworker or your white colleague, right? So here's the deal. We may not have voted for Trump, but this is an opportune time for FBAs and ADOS to really get on board. And you don't have to have voted for someone to lobby your interests, right? So I encourage FBAs and ADOS, once this new administration is in power, to start getting on the phone, writing little short memos to the White House, to your to elected officials that are Republican, and argue your point, right? Argue the fact that affirmative action needs to be readdressed so that the benefits are specifically going for the intended people that the law was created to address. No longer should Nigerians come over, Dominicans come over, and say, we want to get into your med school. We want to get into your Masters of Business Administration, and say, we are do this because of affirmative action. Because they'll put that coat on and they'll play that game, but they are not one of us. I'll give you a prime example. In Detroit, I would go to the Starbucks, and I have a lot of friends that have gone through professional schools in and around Detroit. I'm a Detroiter, so you get a lot of people, immigrants that have moved into the city and the surrounding areas, and they apply to the med school. So I'm using this example because the Starbucks I used to go to, and not only that, I had a relative that was over a lot of the doctors coming in from med school. You get a lot of Indians, you get a lot of Africans, and you get a lot of other immigrants that are coming into the med school, and they're taking spaces for that are affirmative action spaces. All right. So when you look around, there are no FBAs and ADOS that are necessarily in the program. The majority of the minorities are from other countries using affirmative action, and they should not be allowed to use affirmative action. Let me say this also about affirmative action, because a lot of people might cry, oh, well, you didn't do what you were supposed to do to get in, blah, blah, blah. Let me be real clear to people about why I think affirmative action is necessary, but on the flip side, I don't like it. If a person is in school, and I'll use myself as an example, in undergrad, I was at a predominantly white institution, as people say, right? Big state university. And everybody in the class was given the midterm. I was the only one that passed it. Plus, I was the only black person, minority in the class. And trust me, they knew my background because I'm pretty vociferous on certain issues, and I make it be known my background. So don't come in here talking about they didn't know you were black. Yeah, they knew I was black because I have made it known, right? Some of you black people and some of you others will sit back and be docile. I'm not that docile guy, right? So the The exam was given. I was the only one that passed with a D. Everybody else flunked. Because everybody else flunked, the professor came in. He says, we're going to retake the exam. Everybody that flunked the exam, that did not pass the exam, can retake the exam. We won't use both grades. So the grade you get will be the grade that will go on the books. And I raised my hand and said, well, wait a minute. I'm the only one that passed. I got a D. Can I retake the exam? No, you can't take you passed. Okay. So now the exam comes. I'm like, screw this. I'm taking this exam because there's no way these people are going to get a retake and then use their grade. And I'm stuck with a D. So I retook the exam. I got a B. There were nothing but A's and B's on the second exam. I went to the professor and I said to the professor, all right, so are you going to use my retaken grade? No. I raised holy hell. I went back to the political science department. I talked to the department head. I talked to the guy who was my advisor. I told him what's going on. I was in the office saying the only reason he did it is because I'm black. What is this? And my advisor happened to walk in and said, whoa, 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 calm down, come to my office, let's talk. All right. So why do I say affirmative action is needed? Because you get these types of professors who grade down African Americans. If you are in between a grade, then you are not given the benefit of the doubt. I got example after example after example of not only me, but my friends when we have discussions about that, right? So affirmative action is not something where you're giving somebody a pass. They couldn't do it. No, the discrimination is real and it's still happening, right? So here's the other thing with respect to affirmative action in the elected capacity, right? Detroit has two congressional districts that were set aside for primarily because Detroit's an African American city, primarily set aside for blacks. Do you know not one of those two has a black congressperson? There's an Indian and a Middle Eastern person. I think it's she's Palestinian. Yeah, she's the only Palestinian, right? So how are ADOS and FBA rights and being, or just our interests, because they're not right, they're interests. How are our interests being diffused? Well, when you get these people elected, then they go and they fight for their people. It's no longer that they're going to push an agenda for those blacks who are not immigrants to this country. And I'm under, as I said that, I'm understanding more and more about some of the arguments that black people are making, right? Because we weren't immigrants. Now, obviously, I've got some European blood in me, and that's not for this topic. But when these people are elected, then they are pushing their agenda. Point in fact, the Palestinian congresswoman from Detroit is one of the main people that pushed for MENA, Middle Eastern and North Africans, to be put onto the census. So when you get that, that's another step forward for them to say we are due certain things that this country is giving out to other minorities. Not giving, but we earned it, you see. So they're coming over saying, now we've got this category. Let's carve out and make some laws for us specifically so that we ourselves are able to get some of these grant monies, get some of these tax dollars. And that's not what it was for. That is not what it was for. You've got a New York congressman who admittedly said he was an illegal immigrant. What other country in the world do you know that you can go to where somebody was an illegal coming into that country and they allow you to be elected to a national position, to a position at all? So we now have elected officials all around the United States who are pushing an agenda that is for their countries of origin. But yet they're all saying that they should enjoy some of the benefits of being minority. And that's not what affirmative action was for. Affirmative action was to address the past ills, specifically of slavery. And it may not have, the terminology within the law may not have said that, because women are included. So, I want to be clear, women are included, but for affirmative action as it relates to minorities, it was specific to address those past discriminatory issues. And they come over, they dilute ADOS population and claim that they too are a minority, therefore they should get it. And then they're writing laws and they are arguing that send money back to this country. I guarantee you, they want money sent back. A prime example of how that is done is the fact that you have this Palestinian American who told the people of her, because it's not only Detroit, it's Dearborn, told those people not to vote for the Democrat. We're going to withhold our vote unless you agree with the fact that we're at war over here with Israel, and Israel is unless you side with us, we're not going to side with you. That's anti-American. They're not American. Their first consideration is to be Palestinian, to be Dominican, to be Nigerian. And once they get into these elected officials, then they want the money sent back to Indonesia, Palestine, Israel, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you get my point, right? And it's time for the FBA. It's time for the ADOS. It's time for Black Americans that were originally here, that did not immigrate. It's time for them to step up, use your power, understand how to play politics, regardless of the fact that you did or you did not vote for Trump. Start making those calls, putting pressure on those officials, because this Americanism thing is at its height. And white Americans are complaining about the very same thing that FBA and ADOS are complaining about. So I'm telling you now, even if you did not vote for Trump, to get on this bandwagon and start lobbying, understand the game of how you get your message turned into laws.